Good afternoon, Professor Rasi. We are here at the Cell and Gene Therapy meeting on the MESA, organized by ARM, the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine. We are very happy to have you as part of this meeting. It's the first time we have you here. Also, thanks to, in some way, that this year we are doing a virtual event, and we had you last year at our Cell and Gene meeting on the Med in Barcelona. So we are very pleased to have you again. It's the last few weeks of your mandate, and it has been, I would say, at least in the last years, extremely challenging period for EMA and for all of us in general, with Brexit and with the COVID crisis. So for this reason, again, we are very thankful to have you here. And we would like to really to have a chat with you today and discuss a bit, going through a bit what has been your experience in the last years, what has been done by the EMA, and also maybe look a bit into the future with a special eye on the ATMP advanced therapy sector. So, that's what we do as ARM. The community is very excited to have you with us. Before you start doing the presentation, just would like to give a bit some information to the audience. We're going to start with Professor Rasi presentation for a while. Then we will move to a Q&A session. We call it Fireside Chat. So we'll be an interview. And also this session is currently recorded. So it's not, let's say it's a recorded session, as I'm saying, and you will have the opportunity once you will be attending. So now that you're attending this session, you have the opportunity to ask questions through the chat, and Professor Rasi will be available live to answer your questions. So that will be an additional opportunity to interact with him. Stop here, and I'd like to give you the floor, Professor Rasi, for your presentation.
Thank you, Paolo, and thank you for inviting me to the MESA. I was already expecting to have a nice trip there, and but it's good that we managed to have this conversation, and we managed to keep going despite the challenging times. So that's certainly we have to take the good part of it. I don't think it's very relevant now to make a little bit of the journey that we have done, the Brexit, the COVID. Let's focus on ATMP. That is the future, hopefully, for the future for us, the future for the patient, the future for many things. So let's focus on future, and for a while forget, and maybe the future also to address COVID and future epidemics. So let me share with you few slides, few data. I hope you can see the screen here, the share screen. Perfect. Yeah, thank you. So that's basically here we have the 11 years journey of the ATMPs. You know that the regulation came into force in 2009. And as you can see, it was a long journey before we came to really have what we can call an activity on ATMP. We market 5, as you can see, 5 medicines, 5 high products that are not anymore on the market, but certainly they were important part of this long journey. Because by those we learn what to do, we learn what not to do, and we know that many of these had a very troubled experience. I remember, for example, Glybera, there was a big clash between 2 committees, and that was something that taught us quite a lot. Now, as you can see, the pace has been like stop and go, but recently the pace is increasing importantly. You see there are all the set, how you can say, the gene therapy, the cell and tissue, the engineered tissue, the all set. And you can see now that the gene therapies are kind of taking over and are taking quite a good pace. As you can see, after 11 years, we had 15 products. Overall, now we have 7 ongoing market authorization. This, I think, is per se a message and something that we have to take very seriously, how to manage, how to avoid to put that box of withdraw as we have done at the for some initial project and products. So basically, what was the part of the journey? I don't know how to really move. No, I learned. Well, I think what was part of the journey was this intense exercise and incentive that has been given in the legislation, and that was the classification for the ATMPs. As you can see here, we have the breakdown of this procedure, but by the end of December 2019, more than around 400 procedure has been finalized, 400 has been submitted, almost 400 has been finalized. So I think this is part of the history, and I think was good to see. Well, this is the breakdown, the classification. Once again, see how much, how was the journey, how slowly was the start of the journey, and how a little better started to keep going over time. What I think was one key element, and still is one key element, is the scientific advice. I think the scientific advice is a success story of the agency. If we project the same numbers and the same trend for all the medicines, we will have similar to the ATMPs. But here you can really see how much the scientific advice is anticipating what is coming to the market authorization and to life. The scientific advice was challenged by many, challenged by some watchdogs saying that we were too close to industry. We have been challenged by the ombudsman that finally they not only they understood, but they're now supportive of this exercise, and has been unfortunately not completely staffed as I wished. But still, you can see that the activity was intense. Scientific advice is the key element for us to understand, to capture what is coming, because we have to know much in advance what is coming. We have to be prepared. We have to know what we need to know. And therefore, that's why I give so much emphasis to the scientific advice. Is the way to early engage, is the way to, for the ATMP is particularly important. A lot of ATMPs are coming from not very experienced developers, from academia, from spin-off, or young scientists. That means that they don't have a huge experience or a sufficient experience, I would say, of the regulatory tools, the regulatory process. They are kind of also scared about the regulators. Through the scientific advice, they can come, they can present without in a safe haven. They can present their project, they can share the initial data, and they can be guided through the development. And therefore, I think this has been instrumental to come to the point where we are now. So what we do have now, basically, if we look at the pipeline, we have, and also through the scientific advice, we also can become aware about the pipelines, what is coming. So as we said in the first slide, we have 7 ongoing applications already submitted. 6 are gene therapies and 1 is a engineered tissue. 3 out of 7 are prime products, and I will come back to prime. I think this is another important piece of initiative that I'm proud of. At EMA has supported, and I will come back on this. And also, we expect to have up to 20 application in 2021, and the majority, as have been illustrated already, will be in the domain of the gene therapy. Up to 20 is quite a little bit unexpected, because our estimate was to go up to roughly 20 by in the next 5 years. Instead, it's already really encouraging and a little bit positively surprising that we already expect in 2021. What I think has been another good initiative is the so-called PRIME. I think this audience is quite aware of what PRIME is, but it's worth reminding that at the beginning there was, I would not say skepticism, but certainly some hesitancy. Was not clear what was for. We claim that was only for unmet medical need, which is true, and now it's very well understood, and is certainly encouraging to invest in this direction. Also, with PRIME, we had some skepticism about only being initially only for small and medium enterprise, for academia, and some skepticism about, well, if I fail PRIME, that will be negative for the development. Instead, now it's very well understood that is one additional tool, is a very powerful tool, and I think it has been stemmed by the concept of the scientific advice with one step further. We say, why for the promising medicine and for those who need really a regulatory assistance all the way through the development. For the very early phase, we saw so many mistakes in development, and not just because we had the wrong idea or the wrong project, because was merely wrongly handed and without any understanding of what was needed for the market authorization. I would say long and not easy journey, we admit. So basically, we designed PRIME. When you get the PRIME designation, you have a team that take you hand in hand and drive you through all the process of generating the evidence that is needed, and this certainly is matching with an increased success rate. Well, we enjoy to say that 47% of the PRIME designated products are ATMPs, and this is already one other message that was the right move, and the sector of the ATMP, the people of the community of ATMP, understood that and is coming and engaging with us in this with this new tool and this new access. Of course, we know that there are a lot of aspects, of course, that still are not completely working. There are a lot of aspects that we still have to, a lot of gaps, and a lot of, as I said, that's aspect we have to address, to improve, or to build from scratch. One very important aspect is the overall access to the medicine. It's not only for the ATMPs, but it's particularly true and important for the ATMPs. We know the ATMPs are meant for a smaller population. We know that a smaller population and new way to develop medicines and new way to approve medicine imply higher cost and higher prices. And that's why, once again, EMA went beyond its own remit, with some tension, of course, with some doubts. However, we had very clear that we wanted to be on the forefront of the access. We didn't want to become the authority who authorized the medicine nobody can access and nobody can afford. And that's why one of the key elements was our engagement with the HTA bodies and recently also with the payers. To do this, we also reached out a wider set of partners. We involved over the time more and more community that exert a key role that were not necessarily envisaged in the initial structure of the registration process and of the authorization process and spelled out in the regulation. I mean, the patient, the academic researcher, the public bodies, as I say, the healthcare professional, and as I said recently, the HTA's body and the payers, who are playing a key role. We know that the evidence we are asking for, the set of evidence we are asking for, might be slightly different for the set of evidence that is required eventually. And I will not stop repeating that this process cannot be in sequence. This process should run in parallel for the benefit of the patient who will access earlier, for the benefit of the payer who will know exactly what is coming, what he will be paying for, for the benefit of the developers, for the industry, because they know upfront what is the evidence standard they have to fulfill, what they have to expect as of the beginning. It's a matter of planning, it's a matter of predictability. And that's why I think it's so relevant that we run this process in parallel and we engage as early as possible, all together at the same time and the same level. I just want to share with you some additional thoughts about what EMA is doing and what I think is very important. Well, I think there are 2 or 3 very important gaps. One is the fragmentation of the regulation. We know now that there is the convergence of the many technologies behind the ATMPs. This is true in many other sectors, but ATMPs is really the prototype of the convergence of different technologies. We cannot keep going for longer with a fragmentation of the regulation. So a convergence of technologies should be mirrored by a convergence of regulations. I mean, devices, I mean, the GMPs, I mean, the GDPR, all this kind of everything that is behind the final approval of ATMPs should be taken in a holistic approach. This is true everywhere, but in Europe, I think is particularly urgent to move some steps towards this convergence of regulation. So the fragmentation I see is the most important point. One other aspect is the possible different approach in different jurisdictions. In this respect, I would say that the COVID helped a lot. At international level, as you know, there's this coalition of regulatory authorities, the so-called ICMRA, difficult to pronounce for Italian acronym. That took really it's a raison d'etre, I would say. It's really took some step, and the reason for this was clarified during the COVID. What I mean by this: 28 authorities has been meeting 32 times from March to now. And that gave us a tremendous boost toward, I will not say an harmonization, but certainly to a more uniform, a more harmonized way of thinking. We opened up a lot more among authorities, much beyond what was already the very intense exchange we regularly have with FDA. But we're really working around the COVID possible therapeutics and vaccines. We really started reasoning together for the first time, involving both heads of agency and people and experts. Because also this disconnect sometimes between the top management and the expert. You may see sometime that we agree at the top level and the expert disagree, and the expert agree and we take different political direction at the top. This COVID imposed us in this coalition, is a coalition of the will. So the willings doesn't impose anything to anyone, and that's in some way is more encouraging. And we achieved I think a lot. And now the challenge is to transfer this in the daily activity, in the daily approach. And also to inform any upcoming legislation. And as you know, in Europe, there is an ongoing revision on this. And I would add, on top of the revision of the pharma legislation that was already planned, with COVID, there is an intense activity to see if some lesson learned by COVID can be transferred in the daily approach, in the daily regulation, in the current regulation. And also one other aspect, I hope we will have time to expand this maybe with the question. One other aspect I have not touched that is becoming very hot in Europe, and I hope beyond Europe, is the real world evidence, is the big data, is the data management, and the way this would be fundamental for the development and the fast evolution and management of the ATMPs. I might keep going for the next 9 years to tell you all the 9 years before and how we came here. But Paolo, I think I would stop here, and I will be happy to expand and to cover if I can, if there is interest in some specific aspect. Over.
Many thanks, Professor Rasi. So that was an incredibly interesting overview of many topics. So I will, and I had a list of questions that I prepared, but actually, based on what you have just presented, there are a couple of things that I would like to give a bit, just to summarize what my perspective were, some very new elements. So one is this 20 submissions that are going to come in 2021, or up to 20 or close to 20 marketing applications. So that is something that I would say in terms of the European ecosystem will make a big difference compared to what has been done so far. So let's say the number of products that will potentially reach the market will be higher, and also reach EMA as an organization. So you mentioned that through scientific advice, the organization and the applicants get trained in terms of what are EMA requirements, and and there is an exchange, and it's an important exchange. So I guess one question that I would like to ask you related to that is, we are facing a huge crisis related to COVID, and we know that EMA is really fully engaged in this, and there are also challenges that the pandemic is posing on clinical trials and other other activities of EMA and also from manufacturers. And Brexit, from what I understand, also challenged the EMA organization in terms of workforce and skills. So the first question that comes to my mind is these 20 products that are going to come into in 2021 or up to 20. How are they going to challenge the organization, and how do you think EMA, and how do you think EMA is ready to take this challenge, and what are eventually things that EMA will need to focus on, and also manufacturers will need to focus on in the years to come, especially next year?
Yeah, no, thank you. This is a very appropriate question, and it's not. There is no straightforward answer. So one aspect is would be 20 submission about ATMP? Most likely yes. Most likely yes. Would be EMA ready for that? Well, organization-wise and culturally wise, yes. We also created in the last reorganization that was just in between Brexit and COVID. So I'm very proud that all the people resiliently moved to the new organization, and we would have not survived COVID without that new approach. In this new approach, there is the ATMP office for the first time. So a full, small, but fully committed and engaged in ATMPs to cover all the aspects. The skill set inside the agency has been addressed as much as has been possible during this time. Of course, we don't know what will be the wave of requests coming from the COVID development. There is a potential to consume a lot of resources. We are understaffed severely, very severely. We are in business continuity since 4 years now for the Brexit, and then we transition in a more severe one for the COVID. There is this not understandable approach of the system that we have the budget. We went up, despite all this, 35% up with the budget. We cannot hire our own people. This is a madness that should stop. I requested 40 units immediately for the COVID. If we get that, we can maintain what was already planned for the ATMPs and for the rest. But that is the condition. So if if the next few weeks we are not allowed to hire 40 people, I doubt we will be able to comply and to fulfill for the first time after 25 years our mandate without delays. And of course, we will not be in a position to be forward-looking as we have been, to try to anticipate, to try to also take care of the environmental changes that we need to tackle in order to fulfill the core activity. So there is a danger. For the first time, there is a danger if we are not allowed to reinforce our teams. If it's merely a matter of workforce, because everything else is in place. It's in place in the current, of course, in the current legislative environment, and we know that there is a need to adapt to a fast-changing science, a fast-changing opportunities coming, technologies coming from the new medicines for the ATMPs, basically. I don't know if I answered.
Yes, definitely. And I have a kind of follow-up question on this. So these 14 units that you mentioned, so the request that you made was to the, I guess, the European Commission, right? So
yes. That is the starting point. Of course, the European Commission is key, but also the Council and the Parliament need to be in agreement. Parliament is extremely supportive. Council should be correctly and rightly instructed by the Commission to help us in explaining that there are not public money. We are not asking for more budget, because I understand that it's not the right time. However, we want just to use our own resources to have the right expertise at the right time in-house.
Thank you. So there are other two topics that I think were very important from your presentations, among others, of course. And one was about the fragmentation of the regulation, and the collaboration between different agencies. Maybe we can come back to those later on. One thing that I wanted to ask you, after 9 years at EMA, is there something specifically on top of Prime that you mentioned already that you are proud of? And if you had more time, what you would have done in this more time?
Well, the first thing I'm very proud of is we survived. That's, I think, is I know that is the less visible, but is the most important achievement. We survived Brexit, we survived to move, and we survived to maintain focus and the commitment. When we were just moving the new building, starting to resume a normal life, we went in the most severe BCP, launching massive teleworking, smart working, and I think was really more smart than work. And that's what I'm proud of, is the team I had around. That is my big pride. Yeah. And of course, Prime has been, Psychobo has been, the Scientific Coordination Board has been an achievement. Also that a lot of skepticism at the beginning, but at the end of the day, we don't have any clash anymore among committees. All the chair sit together on a planned basis, and they address and they anticipate problem, and they're working together much better and smoother. And I'm really grateful to the chairs, because they understand they're really helpful and mindful. The multinational team is a good achievement, I think. We had the multinational teams was one good thing, because I think that was fulfilling the spirit of Europe. Not just one team taking one rapportership, but a team composed by different countries. That generated the highest level of cross fertilization and of confidence inside Europe. That was a very good exercise.
Thank you. And you mentioned the collaboration that happened during the COVID crisis between different agencies. And that, I guess, is you were referring to European agencies, but also outside Europe, right? So FDA and other agencies across the world.
Yeah, correct. I said 28 agencies, including, of course, FDA, Canada, Japan, Brazil, China, Russia, all of them. And that was really generating enthusiasm in us to be able to talk each other. We issued 2 joint statements, all the authorities of the world. That is unprecedented. And I think will mark a change in mentality in the regulatory world.
Mm-hmm. And looking more specifically at Europe, do you see, let's say, and maybe also focusing on ATMPs, do you see the current, say, regulation framework and with the different roles at EMA level and country agency level as balance, or do you think that there will be a need for more coordination, more collaboration, more standardization of certain aspects? What's your view on that?
Well, certainly yes. For example, in the domain of the GMO, there is such a diversity in Europe that will be really a need to have something more not harmonized, just one only set. For the ATMP is crucial, and it cannot be the same approach that we use for food. That cannot be the same approach we use for other. Should be something ad hoc and very well thought and very clear, spelled out. I think COVID might be helpful.
Yes, and we do have the example of the Commission posing the GMO regulation for COVID treatments, right? So that could be something.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly what I referred to. They posed very wisely. They did straight away in the right way. Under that experience, certainly we can move in that direction with the evidence of the benefit and reassuring about having no consequence in other domain. Yeah, that I think would be really a tangible, one of the very few positive effects of COVID, but that could be one.
And going back, say the European regulation, and you mentioned it's too fragmented. There are 2 different regulations or laws that impact the sector. How do you see ATMPs, let's say, fit in this bigger regulation? And you mentioned artificial intelligence or data, digital health, medical devices, GDPR. So these are all things that make sense to me. So could you give some more color on what would be the impact for ATMPs?
No, the impact I think, as you can expect, is huge, because if we need to comply with a different regulation done, which each one of it has quite a meaning, is quite good for the reason that was done. but of course, it's difficult for the legislator to envisage a domain that is moving so fast like ATMPs. So now is the time to see, as I said, for example, the GDPR, the exchange of data. The legislation is very good for the privacy, but for the scientific data, they are working on it, but there is a need to have something that will fit in some ATMP regulation or adaptation for that. The devices, of course, we need to have, has been postponed for 1 year, and that is also reasonable for the time given. This year might be used to see how this device regulation can really be integrated in the pharmaceutical regulation, because that is a need. And as you say, the data space in Europe, there are huge investments. I hope this will be channeled in something. We launched the Big Data Real World Evidence initiative. That has been received a huge support by the network, the European network. There is absolutely an alignment inside. There is has been approved by the management board, by the head of agency association, the HMA. The commission is on board for that. Now we need to give a body to this. Whether it will be a platform, whether it will be in authorities or something, but we need now to move in that direction very, very, very fast. I think the Commission is now considering to support this real-world evidence, artificial intelligence, and data management, and also putting resources on it, and that is very good, very welcome.
Published in July this year, a call for fast-tracking use of real-world evidence for ATMPs, and as we see that the urgency is even bigger for the ATMP sector than than the rest of pharma and medical device sector, for which it's also needed. But we really believe that there's no time to waste in developing infrastructure and using real-world evidence. Do you think, and part of this goal was to have, let's say, pan-European infrastructure and coordination, for use of and multi-stakeholder involvement for the use of this real-world evidence. Do you see that possible? So let's say that, and we see the initiatives that come from EMA. And today you published the registry studies guidance, and and there are many initiatives, including the EMA regulatory science 2025, and a recommendation related to that. So definitely all these things go in the right direction for us. Do you see that convergence in infrastructure, both for regulatory and access purposes, so for HTA, but also for innovative payment model type of solutions? Because at the end of the day, what we see as an organization is that there is a lot of fragmentation of initiatives everywhere, and there is a huge challenge in using this data when it comes to when it's needed, outside the specific purpose where they were built for. So I don't know, do you see potential in the short term that such type of infrastructure will be built?
Well, 3 months ago, I would have said a blunt no. Now, with COVID, with this awareness, with Health for Europe, I see that it might come. It might come faster than we expected. I don't know if fast enough, but certainly now it's taking shape. It's a momentum. We have not to miss this, to lose the momentum. The awareness is there. The political will seems to be there. The resources are already envisaged, if not allocated. As you say, now it's a matter of taking a little bit of consistency in the main initiative and to have this unified platform. I'm very, very favorable. Wherever it will be, it's not important. It's important that it will be up and running and operating with the multi-stakeholder approach that you described and you wish and said is the right way. Yeah. So now a little bit more optimistic.
Thanks. So that's good. At least the COVID crisis is bringing good things.
Yeah, some good things, indeed. Any crisis is generating opportunities. That is known, and we have not to miss the good part.
One other question I wanted to ask you is, what changes do you expect will happen at EMA with your successor, so Emmercook, that will take place in bit, so it's a bit more than 1 month from when this Fireside chat will be live. So, and what will be the impact for the cell and gene therapy sector for ATMPs, if you can give some color on that?
Well, I see good things with EMA coming. Good things for many reasons. First, because she comes from EMA, so she knows virtually everyone apart the very young people, the last round of turnover. And she comes from there. She knows not only the people, but deeply the process, and she already is participating to many executive activities inside the EMA, showing how much she's committed to be up to speed immediately, and she will. Knowing her personality, energy, she will immediately up to speed. 4 years at the WHO certainly widened further her vision. She was already in the international, helping myself, and she already had a very good, wide, open mind. Now with this experience, which is in the same domain, she was not going far from what we're talking now. Certainly is enriching her. She's younger than me, so I expect more energies, and she will. So I expect only positive evolution. I don't expect big change in the organization, because she seems to be happy. Some fine-tuning are very welcome, would be very welcome. Has not been completed. In the domain of cell therapy and ATMPs and gene therapy, I expect that she will just keep going. I know she's already engaging with the people of the ATMP offices. She welcomed the creation of this office, which means that I expect improvement over my action.
Thank you. So the next question is related to publication that ARM made last year. It was about clinical trials, yeah. ATMP clinical trials in Europe and internationally, and you have seen that publication, and and that shows that basically Europe compares not that well to Asia and the US. And so the question is how you explain these differences, and how do you see the new clinical trial regulation changing the situation eventually, in which way, and also when do you expect the regulation to be implemented?
Well, the causes for this, I think we indirectly already addressed. One is the fragmentation, for example, of the GMP for the ATMPs. That is one thing that is certainly not encouraging. One is the GMO fragmentation. The second is the clarification that is needed for the data protection, the privacy aspect. And of course, this diversity in each member state, this fragmentation. The clinical trial regulation will be a good step. It's not solving all the problems. The three I mentioned are not to be solved by the clinical trial regulation. However, having a common access point, the new portal will be basically a gigantic workflow operated by everyone everywhere. So that's certainly is a step. Will that sufficient for the ATMP? Probably not. Probably not. We also need maybe, and the COVID is once again dramatically showed this, we probably need to have some authorities, so some centralization also in some master protocols. We cannot have this authorization coming in this fragmented way with some heterogeneity in the trials, heterogeneity in conducting the trials. And this is not in the benefit of clinical trial as a whole, and particularly in ATMP, where the trial is smaller, with a smaller population, and where you need even more coordination. If you want to get the number, you need to have simultaneously to use all the potential of Europe. So you need really to have some central coordination, not an authority, but coordination where the people really make this on top of the GMO, GMP, and yeah, a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, and the next question is, just looking back, you were mentioning regulations in Europe, looking back at the ATMP regulation, so 11 years back, and all has been done since in Europe, also EMA, but in general, in member states and and manufacturers with their products. What do you see the benefits of the regulation? Where do you see the strong benefits of the regulations, and at the same time, the value, let's say, of pan-European regulatory standards for ATMPs?
Well, the benefit was to, and that was quite forward-looking 11 years ago, to understand that something was going to happen, was acknowledging with quite a vision that the science was moving in that direction. Gave the time for the new committee to mature, to gather the evidence of the different way to approach the evidence generation and all this thing. So I think that gave some incentives, consented to also to have initiative like Prime, was the evolution of many drivers, including the ATMP regulation. And having this evidence and having now cut the committee a big role, with the big boys, I would say, is due to this. is because of this legislation. So that was a very good move. Maybe, well, you can argue could have been done better, could have been updated faster, but at the end of the day was good and was quite forward-looking. I think it's important now to keep going on the same pace. We need the same the standard of all the other components of the ATMP. We didn't know about the GMO at that time. We didn't know about some GMP and some. We didn't know about the way of manufacturing. We didn't know about the way to gather data, artificial intelligence. All these now should be coordinated in one thing and have definitely a European standard to address exactly what we addressed in your question, in your previous question. Why is not so attractive? Well, because of this fermentation. And so a European standard with all these components would be the next step to make Europe attractive back again.
Thank you very much, Professor Rasi. We are getting closer to the end of this. Sadly, we are getting to the end of this chat. I have a last question for, let's say, the developers community, the ATMP developers community. What will be for you your recommendation to them? So if you had to give just one recommendation to them, what would you suggest?
Engage with us as early as you can. So you teach us, we learn, and we help each other to progress and to provide the correct environment around to flourish both. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with this, I thank you again, and also wish best luck for your next endeavors and after EMA.
Thank you for inviting me. Really enjoyed.
Thank you.